Tonight, on Bay News, the Millennial Edition, we bring you stories on how social media is creating new career opportunities.
Technology is changing the way we work out.
And how our generation is changing the workforce. Good evening. Welcome to Bay News, the Millennial Generation. I'm Azita Rodriguez.
And I'm Ratasha Earbaran. Were you born between 1980 and the early 2000s? Then congratulations. You're a millennial, and today's show is all about you. But what does being a millennial actually mean? We grew up in the digital age. So yes, we're constantly texting and updating our social media profiles. And maybe we multitask a little too much. But that does not define us. We are also the largest, most diverse generation in history.
Generations before us don't understand how we operate and have labeled us as narcissistic, lazy, and entitled. But don't worry, we aren't. From our stance on marriage to the appreciation for our environment, today's show will clarify who we are and why we're so different from our parents and grandparents. Studies show that the average millennial spends around 2 hours a day on their phone. Since we're constantly connected, how well informed are millennials, also known as Generation Y, on current events?
The reason I don't pick up a newspaper is because I'm just kind of lazy, and it kind of requires more effort to go and search for things. And it's, let's say if I do it online and I get really into a certain article, I can go on to read about it.
My interest in the news, I relatively watch it sometimes because of my mother. She'll have the TV on running in the house.
According to the Associated Press, most millennials get their news from the web, but are not actively searching for it. 69% of millennials check the news daily, and 86% of them get their news from Facebook. But millennials are not interested in all news. They seek out specific topics. This is why Fusion, a joint venture between ABC and Univision, was created.
Fusion was launched in October 2013 as a cable news network and digital network for millennials to address all these issues that are not represented in mainstream media. Starting with our faces and our voices, it's very rare that you see Latino, African American faces in mainstream, especially young people.
Many news channels and newspapers are now on the web and active on social media platforms. To learn more on how millennials prefer to consume their news, visit baynews.tv.
Millennials, like generations in the past, face stereotypes and generalizations. Our reporter, Alexandra Lopez, went to the streets to find out what people really think of Generation Y.
Millennials are often viewed as entitled, narcissistic, tech-savvy, and lazy by the older generations. But many millennials, like college senior Andreina Diaz, are fighting these stereotypes daily.
I work full-time and I also go to school full-time, whether it's at night or online. I also volunteer on the weekends. I try to go every Saturday at the animal shelter. And on the weekends, I also fulfill my photography hobby. And even with all that on my plate, I still got accepted into the Honors College. And during the weekdays, I try my best to meet with my motorcycle family.
Dr. Miranda Kitterlin, professor of hospitality and tourism at Florida International University, explains why millennials are often called Generation Lazy and what is wrong with this stereotype.
So, why are millennials considered lazy by other generations? This may not necessarily be an accurate assumption by other generations. We do see that millennials tend to bleed the lines between work and play. So for example, at work, they may be more apt to update their Facebook, go on Twitter, do other things that are not necessarily work related. But when they leave work, they still will do work activities such as answer emails from their cell phones, etc. So lazy is not really accurate because what you end up having is this person who has a 24/7 work week.
Last year, in a survey conducted by YouGov, 59% of Americans said millennials are lazier than older generations, while 70% of the population also agreed that millennials work less hard than Gen X and baby boomers.
It's harder for millennials to find jobs because everybody looks down on us. They consider us the lazy generation, the party generation, and not all of us are like that. So it'd be nice to be set apart from all that.
However, the older generation stands strong behind the thought that millennials are the laziest of all.
I have a hard time understanding this generation's craziness about taking selfies.
All millennials are lazy. You guys don't get up and face-to-face with people as much as you should, and you can't handle rejection, and you give up too quickly.
Well, I'm glad I'm not one.
Esperanza Pineda, a baby boomer and grandmother of Andreina, talks about how there was no margin to be lazy when she grew up.
Antes no, teníamos que trabajar para sostener el hogar de Mientras que ahora los muchachos, los padres los sostienen, no les importa trabajar o no.
Andreina started working at 17 and hasn't stopped ever since.
I started working full-time when I was 17, turning 18 at FIU. It wasn't because I wanted to, it's because I had to. The only working people in the family of 4 are my sister and I, and that's because my grandma is very old, she's 75, and my mom is disabled, so she's not able to work.
Every generation has always stereotyped the one that comes after. However, despite cultural beliefs about millennials, as we've seen today, stereotypes are often just that and don't represent reality. For Ray News, I'm Alexandra Lopez.
Thank you, Alexandra. To see a story on one millennial's struggles in the real world, check out baynews.tv.
Unemployment rates in the U.S. are generally lower for people with a bachelor's degree or higher. But did you know a degree doesn't guarantee a job in your studied field? The Federal Reserve Bank of New York found that only 27% of recent grads find a job related to their major. Some recent grads who haven't had luck finding a job search for other ways to make an income. And about 5 million college graduates settle for jobs that require less than a high school education. Certain millennials have even chosen to start their own businesses as a way to support themselves.
I'm not currently looking for jobs anymore at the moment because I decided to give it a break since I did apply to so many and I can only take so much rejection. So I decided to start my own jewelry business online and we'll see how that goes.
The reason why we're seeing students that have degrees is because there's either not a demand for what they studied in our marketplace or the candidate might have a degree but lacks work experience.
To further increase their chances of finding a job, students are recommended to study a field in high demand with a market in the city they plan on living in.
You may qualify as a millennial based on your age, but do you act like a millennial? Take our quiz and find out. This is how it works. Throughout the show, questions will pop up on the screen. Answer them based on your everyday actions, and at the end of our show, we'll reveal the results. Don't forget to keep track of your answers. Here are the first set of questions.
Millennials, want some tips on what to say during a work interview? Our panel discussion is coming up next. Stay tuned.
Florida International University is Miami's first and only public research university. Since 1965, FIU has been an anchor institution in Miami-Dade, and we are a top 10 employer in the county. FIU is a public institution that engages in problem-solving research and prepares our graduates with the skills they need to compete. We are 200,000 graduates strong. Our alumni not only get good jobs, but create good jobs. FIU's success is also our community's success.
Welcome back. Although today's generation adapts quickly to change, entering the workforce can still be a challenge. We now turn to Ratasha. She's joined by some special guests who have some advice for millennials transitioning into the real world.
I'm here with Gabriela Lambertus, a communications consultant at Wells Fargo, and Megan Barrow, the audience engagement editor at the Miami Herald, to discuss millennials' influence in today's workforce. Thank you for joining us today, ladies.
Thank you.
All right, and if you can just both give me a background of how you got to where you are right now, how you got this position.
So as you mentioned, I'm a communications consultant for Wells Fargo in Florida. But how did I get that job? I got that job because of a really good connection that I was able to establish at an internship that later became a permanent job for me at the Conroy Martinez Group, an agency here in Miami. So a former colleague I had that worked there heard about the job, told me, why don't you go ahead and apply, and I did, and I went through the long interview process, but now I'm there.
Okay, and what about you, Megan?
I started as an intern at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I was hired at the end of the summer there. After several years there, I started looking around for a new job. I went to a conference, a journalism conference, met some leaders of the Miami Herald there, went through the long interview process as well, and I've been here for about a year.
All right, so we all met a few weeks ago at the FIU Communications Week at the Professional Development Day panel. And also on the panel was Rosanna Fisk, who is actually your current employer at Wells Fargo. She's the Vice President of Corporate Communications. And what she had to say about the interview process is when she sits down with a potential applicant, she analyzes how many times if they say the word like. And if they say the word like 5 to 10 times, that means hey, you're not prepared for the interview. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I remember when she was saying that, I had a smirk on my face because that's true to Rosanna's character. She would do something like that. But she has a point, and I think the point that she was trying to get across is that you have to be very well prepared for an interview. And when I mean well prepared, I'm not talking only about knowing your resume, remembering what you've done in the past, what are some of your skills, but also what are some examples that you can bring to the table to show what your strengths are, to show what you're good at, to show what are some of your strategic thinking skills. So definitely getting to know yourself and being very well prepared for your interview is a must.
Right. And how would you say that you prepare for an interview? What helps to prepare for an interview?
Practice, and really sitting down and assessing the types of work that you've done, how you interact with other people, and honestly, you can ask other people that you've worked with or past bosses, but it's really a self-assessment that helps you prepare for a good interview. What do I do particularly well? What do I not do particularly well that I really could improve on? And writing it down and practicing, for sure. I would always advocate practice for an interview.
And just to end here, we have Michael Daoud. We have a soundbite from him. He has a job over in the UK that he received just after his graduation, so that's great for him. We'll go ahead and listen to it now. It's basically him telling us what advice he has for graduating seniors and his perception of millennials in the workforce. So here's the soundbite.
We grew up with different technologies and we grew up in a constantly evolving environment, but we're just as professionally apt as anybody, to be honest. Don't let anybody tell you that millennials are less worthy than their older peers, because in the end, when people say that, I think it's a very big sign that they're afraid.
Okay, and what did you think about what Michael had to say? He seems very passionate about millennials in the workforce.
Well, I think he has strong feelings about the subject matter, and I would agree with him in some ways. Millennials were very different. What I will say is that millennials have they have many stereotypes, right? A lot of those stereotypes are huge generalizations that I don't agree with, but some of those stereotypes are there because people have seen certain examples of our generation that maybe have certain types of attitudes and ways of working that they may not agree with.
Right.
So it's important for us as millennials to understand what are our strengths, as we've spoken, but also what are those stereotypes that we need to make sure that we're aware of and we kind of crush down as soon as we see a hint of them appearing in our workplace. If we believe that they need to be crushed, because I think that they're there for a reason. I don't think that it's a generalization that really describes our generation, though.
Okay, and how do you think that we can crush those stereotypes, Megan?
By being the best workers that we can be. That sounds like a cliche, but I totally believe it. By setting our priorities, showing every day that we want to work for the best of the company that we're in, that's the way that we can make sure that we crush some of those stereotypes, and communicating with the older generation, not perpetuating a divide. So communicating with them and making sure that we understand each other's priorities, we can move into a better understanding.
Okay. Is there any further advice that you could give millennials who are, or graduating seniors who are looking for a job?
I would say be very active in getting an internship. And really read up and learn about what the millennial generation is all about. Because when you're aware of what your future employer may be thinking about, it'll help you sell yourself in some way a little bit better and know what things you may need to work on or develop to be able to balance out those stereotypes that are in the workforce.
Okay. Any advice from you, Megan?
My advice would be, since we talked about millennials' strengths and knowing our weaknesses, use both of those. Our strengths tend to be in technology, so go ahead and make sure that you use those skills to create a great resume or presentation and show the employers what you have to offer, but also go old school and make sure that you reach out to people, talk, make personal interactions, because that goes such a long way in getting an internship or a job.
All right, well, I want to thank you both for coming out and joining us today. Now let's get back to Azita in the studio.
Thank you, Ratasha. The internet, and more importantly, social media, is a big part of the millennial generation. While older generations may think we only use social media to post selfies and retweet cat videos, some millennials have become famous for the content they create, and they're getting paid for it. Our reporter Rashandra Jackson dives deeper into the lives of these newfound celebrities.
We are in the midst of a new era of communication, where millennials have found fame and fortune without ever leaving their homes. Top YouTube celebrities such as Felix PewDiePie Kjellberg, Jenna Marbles, and Michelle Phan have millions of followers and hundreds of millions of views, making this their careers. Troy Pendell, better known as T. Pendell, has over 1 million subscribers on YouTube.
I actually started posting content to YouTube because I was bored. I didn't have anything to do. I was just like, man, what am I going to do with myself? How can I entertain? So I'm like, let me just entertain complete strangers. And it kind of took off.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy T. Pendell. Welcome back to another video, baby. People are always asking me, T. Pendell, how tall are you? I am 6'3". I know that's not that tall, but I thought it would be cool to put all the things I go through being tall in a video.
My most recent video I did was tall people problems. And I've been working on that video for a year and a half. I was like, man, okay, sometimes I get in the shower and I'm taller than the shower head. Sometimes I'm in the bed and my feet hang off the end. And it was just certain stuff I put together and made it comedic. And it worked out perfectly. It did pretty well.
Social networks are an important part of millennials' lives, in part because social networks are more than just a way to connect. There are 18 million millennials in America, representing about a fourth of the entire population with $200 billion in annual buying power. Because of their numbers and spending power, millennials are trendsetters across all industries, from fashion to food, which makes them ideal targets for companies.
Ads have become very prevalent in social media, especially on YouTube. Like, I remember when I first started watching it, you wouldn't see ads anywhere because everybody's channel was more of like a personal channel. Then it went to having ads on like regular channels, and now you have ads on every single video that you watch. There's a 30-second ad.
I get paid from Google. And anytime you watch a YouTube video, sometimes there are commercials before the video, sometimes little ads pop up during the video. All of that time I get a percentage.
Total, I'm not on it for like 6 hours straight, but like in those little bits and pieces in between class and like when I'm bored, it probably adds up to around 6 hours.
Millennials are obsessed with social media. Some of us simply consume it while others produce content and, as a result, become rich and famous. Companies have adapted by coming up with new ways to track us down in an effort to earn our business. But the question still remains, will it work? I'm Rashandra Jackson in Miami, Bay News.
Thank you, Rashandra. Coming up next, we get a closer look at millennials' philosophy on marriage in this new era. But before we go, here's the second round of questions for our millennial quiz.
FIU is Miami's first and only public research university. Since 1965, FIU has been an anchor institution in Miami-Dade, and yes, we are over 200,000 graduates strong. We're on the cusp of doing even greater things. Our proposed expansion will enhance our ability to create new jobs for the South Florida economy and produce greater new student talent like me. This initiative is important to our community because FIU's success is also our community's success.
Welcome back. One of the greatest things about our generation is that we embrace technology and incorporate it into every aspect of our lives. Millennials are taking control of their health by combining their workouts with technology. Users can now monitor their calories, step counts, heart rates, and other information right on their wrists with the help of a fitness tracker. According to CareerGlider.com, those between the ages of 18 and 34 accounted for almost half of fitness band owners in 2014. Melissa Viejo, a senior at FIU, uses her Polar FT4 watch to get the most out of her Insanity workout.
I definitely work out more because it motivates you. You see where your heart rate is, you see the calories. Maybe you set yourself a goal and you want to reach it. And if you're not quite there yet, then you want to push yourself even harder to get there. And like, I can be doing the same workout every day and like, my heart rate's not up today, like I can push myself harder to get it there.
Melissa says her favorite feature of the watch is the calorie counter because it provides her with a more accurate account than the fitness apps that she has used in the past. Other popular fitness tracker brands with similar features include Fitbit, Jawbone, and Garmin. A study from Equity Group, a digital marketing agency, says that 47% of millennials plan to purchase fitness trackers by 2019. Check out our website, baynews.tv, for an interactive map and animated GIFs of millennials working out.
Millennials are known to be more environmentally conscious than previous generations. They enjoy buying responsibly made products and take advantage of public transportation. Our reporter Marwan Noorani tells us more about this unique lifestyle choice.
Surveys have shown that millennials care about the environment. They are also more likely to pay for more responsibly made products, all the while making use of public transportation. For millennials, you are what you buy, so they seek out companies that sell products that are transparent about their ingredients. Lush, for example, sells vegetarian and vegan non-animal tested products packaged in recycled plastic.
Lush, as a company, we recycle everything. We also do other things such as our 5-pot return. You can return 5 pots kind of like this or another size in order to get a free face mask. And what we do with that is we melt them down and turn them into eco-friendly building supplies.
And millennials are not alone. According to recent surveys, 50% of consumers are willing to pay a premium price for a product they consider to be green. 83% of Americans want more of the products, services, and retailers they use to support environmental causes.
It doesn't stop with environmentally conscious products. Millennials remain consistent with their beliefs, and as multimodal beings, they seek efficient means of traveling as well.
Alicia Corbo, a student at the University of Miami, prefers to use alternative modes of transportation in order to minimize damage to the environment.
I work at a hospital in downtown, and the metro leaves you right in front of my job, and I walk about 5 blocks, which isn't too bad, and it's better for the environment that I take the metro rail so that I'm not using my car for such a long distance, and it's more economical as well. As a college student, I mean, I work, but I don't have the best salary. So riding the metro rail to and from work is very convenient.
We all ride skateboards when we can. We try to run, bike, take the metro. We as millennials are more environmentally conscious and live healthier lifestyles than our predecessors.
In their efforts to decrease their carbon footprint, millennials are seeking out more sustainable products, stores that support causes, and better methods of getting around. Their consciousness and awareness makes them the foremost leaders on environmental health. Reporting for Bay News, I'm Marwan Noorani.
Thanks, Marwan. To learn more about natural food options available right here in South Florida, check out our website, baynews.tv.
What is the true meaning of marriage? For some, it's a rite of passage, but to others, it's a meaningless contract. Our reporter, Siobhan Ellington, met with 4 millennial couples to find out what they think about tying the knot.
Compared to previous generations, today's young adults have the lowest rates of marriage by age 40. In fact, a report released last month by the Pew Research Center found that 25% of millennials are likely to never be married. Perhaps one of the reasons for the decline in marriage could be the increase in living together before getting married. Millennial couple Marcelo Sardina and Megan Murphy have been rooming with one another since they initially started dating. They do not see marriage in their near future.
No, we do not want to get married.
No, we do
anytime
not want
soon.
to get married.
Not yet.
No.
I just don't think that marriage is what it used to be.
Iris Pitaluga, a psychotherapist at the Alternative Counseling Center, agrees that for millennials, the significance of marriage has changed.
A large portion of millennials don't want to get married because it is, part of the process of evolution. We have more choices now. We don't want to settle.
For Brushenka Hara, marriage came second to completing her undergraduate studies. After 8 years of dating, she and her fiancé are ready to take the next step.
We're actually doing the whole graduate before college, graduate first, then get married, then have kids type of thing. So we're following that tradition, but we're still keeping our own beliefs.
Although Natalia and Michael Vargas have been married for 2 years, parenthood is not yet a topic of discussion. They have a similar understanding of what marriage is about.
For me, marriage is honestly a lifelong commitment.
You have to care for one another. There has to be some sort of honesty and loyalty there. If not, how can a relationship work?
Legally, the institution of marriage has recently become inclusive of same-sex couples in Florida. For millennials like Julio Carpio, online dating is the perfect fit for shy singles looking for love. With the help of his friends, he met his fiancée on the dating site Plenty of Fish.
I think there's going to be more
international relationships going on based on how these websites are developing. You can meet someone from Texas and they'll be the love of your life, and you wouldn't even know it because you don't live in Texas.
As we have seen, the reasons for marrying have been changing. Time and demographics are indeed altering the course of marriage. For Bay News, I'm Siobhan Ellington.
Thank you, Siobhan. BayNews.tv has more information on millennials' beliefs. Check it out. We've reached the end of this special edition of Bay News, the Millennial Generation.
Now let's get to what you've been waiting for, your results for the Millennial Quiz. If you answered yes to at least 3 out of 5 questions, then congrats, you're a millennial. If you answered no to more than 2 questions, then we're sorry. You probably don't act like a millennial. Are you surprised by your score? We hope you've learned a little more tonight about this generation. I'm Izita Rodriguez.
And I'm Ratasha Earbearing. Good night. Selfie!